I don't think this is going to come as a huge surprise, but a fuel leak is generally bad news if you're flying a plane. There is one notable exception, however, if you're piloting an SR-71 Blackbird. Arguably one of the most recognizable military jets in history, it was designed to leak fuel. Why is that? Let me explain. The Blackbird began development right around when the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union began heating up. Espionage between the two became the norm, and there was a concerted effort on both sides to improve surveillance capabilities. Prior to the Blackbird, the U-2 spy plane was the backbone of the US Army's aerial surveillance efforts. However, the U-2 was relatively slow, meaning it was susceptible to being shot down if spotted. As such, the US government asked Skunk Works, a division within Lockheed Martin that's responsible for developing cutting-edge aircraft for the US military, to develop a new spy plane that could fly significantly faster. What resulted was the SR-71 Blackbird. While it was a remarkable aircraft in many ways, one key number truly makes the Blackbird stand out: Mach 3.2. This was the maximum sustained speed of the plane. Flying at 3.2 times the speed of sound, the Blackbird became the fastest air-breathing jet in history, a record it still holds nearly 70 years after its first flight. This ludicrous top speed made the plane nearly invulnerable. Even if the plane were spotted on enemy radar, it could simply outrun any surface-to-air missile launched its way. Of course, designing a jet that could sustain these ridiculous speeds was a monumental challenge. The biggest challenge of all, though, was overcoming thermal expansion. Traveling at such high speeds creates a tremendous amount of friction between the airframe and the air molecules that are rushing across its surface. At the speeds the SR-71 was capable of, this friction caused the skin of the aircraft to reach 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, most aircraft are built from aluminum. However, aluminum in particular is quite malleable and susceptible to expand when exposed to heat. Had the Blackbird been built from the same aluminum alloys as many other aircraft, its surfaces would have split or curled onto themselves in flight, jeopardizing the strength and aerodynamic efficacy of the plane. Skunk Works engineers tried to circumvent this issue by using titanium alloys, which are much less susceptible to thermal expansion. However, this still couldn't completely solve the issue. As such, engineers had to get creative. They designed the jet to have small gaps of precise measure between its paneling. Then, as the plane heated up in flight, the skin would expand and those gaps would close. It is these tiny gaps that ultimately led the SR-71 to leak fuel, at least while it was on the ground. And when the plane was on the ground, the fuel actually leaked out relatively quickly. Because of this, the Air Force had to implement a special fueling procedure prior to every Blackbird flight. The jet would first be towed out to the end of the runway from which it was set to take off. Once positioned, fueling of the aircraft would commence. At the same time, the flight crew would quickly work through their pre-flight checklist, and once fueling was complete, they would depart immediately. Then, once airborne, the Blackbird would meet an aerial refueling tanker to top off for its mission. So in short, the Blackbird did not leak fuel because it was poorly designed. Rather, it was exceptionally well designed to overcome a particularly difficult engineering challenge. Unfortunately, the last SR-71 was retired in 1999. However, considering competition for air superiority is higher than it's ever been, you can bet that Skunk Works is continuing to develop even cooler top-secret aircraft. We just probably won't know about them for quite some time. If you learned something new today, leave a like and subscribe to keep learning. And until I see you again, don't forget to look up.